preventative health strategies that can add quality to later years. They regular physical activity and proper nutrition are critical for managing chronic conditions and protecting brain health. According to the CDC, physical activity can help prevent or manage many health issues common in older adults, like heart disease and diabetes, while also boosting cognitive function. John E. Lewis of Dr. Lewis Nutrition, a plant-based diet and supplement company, says the power to change one's health trajectory remains firmly in an individual's hands, regardless of age.
If you've been diagnosed with some kind of cancer or heart disease, you still in control of yourself. You still have the ability to change that by using proper nutrition and exercising every day and using key dietary supplements.
Lewis points out that despite a national trend towards sedentary lifestyles, even small amounts of daily movement can start a positive chain reaction for health, which could be a good New Year's resolution for Arkansans of all ages. For those unsure where to begin, Lewis says start small and be consistent.
The easiest thing that somebody can do is have a good pair of sneakers and just simply start walking around in their neighborhood, even if it's only 5 minutes the first time.
Beyond exercise, hydration and key nutrients like vitamin D are also pillars of a healthy aging strategy. Experts agree that a comprehensive approach combining movement, whole foods, quality sleep, and stress management is the true path to vitality after 50. I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
Support for KABF 88.3 FM comes from listeners and community partners. If you're a business owner or planning an event and would like information on how it can be announced on KABF, contact our office at 501-372-6119. That's 501-372-6119.
Hello, I'm Kevin, President of the Dementia Society of America. Request our free guide. It includes information on brain health checkups and much more. Go to 1-800-DEMENTIA.org or call 1-800-DEMENTIA. Your brain will thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, it's Thursday morning, after 9 o'clock. You heard the music, so you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace here on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday morning so far. I hope your week has been great. Whatever your endeavors are, I hope they are fulfilling and whatever you're doing. So it's great to be back on the air. It seems like I've been off the air for a long time, but just doing the work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As always, my beautiful, vivacious, strong co-host is in the studio, the Reverend Dr. Denise Daniel.
Oh my God, I hate it.
Now you know how I feel too.
I hate it. Good morning, Grand Rising humans.
You got any announcements?
I do have some announcements. I'm having a problem finding them though, so give me just a minute.
Okay.
Oh, you waiting on me to find them? Okay, here's one right here. My phone is not backing up. Okay, so here is the first announcement that I have for today. So on December 20th, 2025, It's About You, holiday cheers and community care, a gathering for everyone from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. The Trans Reproductive Justice Project and BU organization are proud to bring a day of conversation, community, and fun to Little Rock, Arkansas. There will be food, games, and resources at 8615 Chico Road in Little Rock, Arkansas. On that same day, same thing. All right, and that's happening on the 20th of December, which is next Saturday. That's happening next Saturday. Okay, you go, Tony, then I'll go.
Okay, so the Michael Van Johnson Jr. Post 74 of the American Legion in Sherwood, Arkansas is having their Blue and Gold Gala, or Gala. This is going to take place Saturday, December 13th at 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn Presidential, 600 I-30 in Little Rock. It's semi-formal attire. For tickets, contact Katrina White at 254-681-1626, Louis Trice, 501-256-7829, Causley Edwards at 501-912-2869, and Gayla Lanham at 501-612-9621.
Also have From Incident to Impact, an interactive community workshop at Sue Cow and Williams Library, 1800 South Chester Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, 72206. That's happening on that same Saturday, December 20th, next Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For more information, you can text 501-891-8024, 501-891-8024, or email the Little Rock Freedom Fund at gmail.com. That's LRFreedomFund@gmail.com.
That's
You got another one?
Right.
I think so. I'm gonna double check, but I think so.
Okay. Hey, I know it's a lot of things going on in the next couple of weeks. There are a lot of different events. There are a lot of different galas. There are a lot of different parties. There are a lot of different things going on, and so it's you're gonna have to pick and choose where you want to go. And what's going to be more a better interest to you, but make sure that you get out and support these causes, these events, if you can. I want to thank everybody who showed up for the holiday hangout at Whitewater Tavern on Tuesday. I heard it was good. I heard it was.
Oh yeah, I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was all of those. It was basically, I could not find a seat when I got in there. I could not sit down.
Yay!
I could not sit down. That's how many people were there. You had Jesse behind the counter, and the guy who comes on after your girl Lola was behind the counter. You had your DJ Russ was in the house with his brother, and I knew that Steffi was on her way. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Great, and I want to thank all the DJs and hosts who participated, but more importantly, I want to thank Matt at Whitewater for giving us the venue,
Woo woo.
and also for all of you, the community who came out in support of KABF 88.3. Just want to thank everybody who gave during Players Drive, who gave during donations. We had some remarkable donations. Want to give a shout out to Karen Seal, who gave a $2,000 donation.
Woo woo.
We also got an anonymous. The person wanted to remain anonymous, but they gave a $5,000
Woo woo.
donation. And we also, I don't know how. I'm not complaining. I'm not messed up about it. But Charles Schwab gave a $2,000 donation.
Woo woo.
You know, so just thank everybody. You know, whether you gave a $2,000, a $5,000, or $5, it did not matter. They're always out the same. It just lets me know and lets us know that your support for KABF is so awesome, and we just thank you for your continued support. We're heading into year we're in year 41, and so we just thank everybody that is continuing to help and keep KABF, the voice of the people, an integral part of the community and all that we do. And we thank you and we appreciate you. So as I said, I've been out off and on. November was a very, very busy travel month for me. And the first week of December, I left the day after Thanksgiving and headed to France for the Global Labor Institute Conference. It happens every 2 years, where they bring together about, I think there was 60 countries represented at the Institute this year. There were workshops, there was plenaries, there were conversations, there was so much going on. And what I loved about it, I think on Tuesday, Denise was talking about allies and accomplices, and I just thought about the conference and the conversations after the workshops and the plans. After everything was done, you're sitting around eating dinner or just sitting around relaxing, and you get into these personal, in-depth conversations. And yesterday, I heard a song that I hadn't heard in, I know, my God, at least 40 years, at least. I think the last time I heard this song, I think I was in high school. But it's a song by Al Hudson and One Way. And the song is called Something in the Past. And basically, the singer is saying that they had this love that was strong. The love was moving. The love was great. But then something in the past is brought up, and now the relationship dissolves. I said every time we start moving forward, something in the past comes in and tears everything apart. And I was thinking about that. I was listening to the lyrics. I was listening to the song, and Denise has got me into really, really listening to the lyrics of the song. What the hell are they really saying? And then pulling out, taking things out of the lyrics, out of the song. And one of the conversations that I had Sergi, C-E-R-G-Y, Sergi, France, they were having a conference, is I had a conversation with this young lady named Saeed, who is from India, but she works out of Germany. Because of the activities she was doing in India, because of her activism, because of her pushing for women's rights, pushing for women to have better pay, pushing for women to have better health benefits. The government came against her. And basically, she had to leave India for her own safety. There was a gentleman named Christopher Munn. If for those of you who may remember, over the past few years, there has been so many protests and student protests in Hong Kong, and the Chinese government started to crack down on protests. He was a professor at a university in Hong Kong. The same thing happened to him. Basically, he said, "I am in exile from Hong Kong. I can't go back." And then he said they put a 500,000. I forget the currency they use in Hong Kong and in China. So they put a $500,000 bounty on his head. And he said it equals out to about 125,000 US. He said, so if either of you want to collect $125,000 right now, all you gotta do is get me back to Hong Kong. It's take me back to Hong Kong and you get paid. And then I talked to another organizer from Swaziland who basically was saying the same thing, that his family is under threat. He's under threat constantly. And the reason I bring all this up, going back to the song, is it's like we have this love that's strong, but something in the past. And when you relate that to what's going on in the US, all these different governments will say, I love you as a citizen. I love you as the community in this country. I love you. But when you bring up the past of what the government has been doing, now the relationship falls apart. And now, part of the song by Al Hutchinson, One Way, is he says that now that something in the past has come in, now you want to leave me, and basically you're being mean to me because of something that happened in the past. And and to me, I took that and some other parts of it. I took it as why can't we work this out? Why does the past can't be resolved to where we can be keep going and be strong? And when you look at what's going on in the U.S., you look at what's going on in all these countries. The minute a person brings up, you telling me you love me, but the abuse that you do is still there. The disrespect is still there. The discrimination is still there. The racism is still there. The foot on my neck is still there. And every time I think that things are okay with us, something comes back to show me that we haven't moved to this point where you really, really love me. And that's the fight that's going on around the world. I know when I always talk about, I look at things a lot of times from a global perspective because I'm in these spaces globally and I can connect them. I can connect the dots, whether it's from Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, whatever. I can connect the dots and make a complete circle all around the world because all these things are happening everywhere. And so now it becomes this one of the things that one of the workshops we talked about is something you talked about, Denise. How do you separate? Either you're going to change. You're going to change what the power structure is doing, which you can't change people, or you're going to find a way of how do we create our own society that treats people this way. And it was a very interesting conversation because I think the indoctrination of so many people is so difficult to break away from. It's kind of like when I talk to people and they talk about, this is the way I grew up. And I said, okay, just because you grew up that way, just because you was taught that way, does that mean you have to stay that way? And even though they may say, yeah, what some things that my mom and daddy taught me, I know it wasn't good. I know it wasn't right. I know it was detrimental. But this is what I've known. The things is we talked about is how do we get from what we know to what needs to happen. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about coming back to the States, coming back to where we are now. How do we I don't know, how do we reconcile this thing of the past? Because let's face it, right now they're trying to erase the past and create a whole new past. They're trying to erase the history and make a whole new history. A history that is more sanitized, a history that is more palatable to the ears or to the mind or whatever. Let's not talk about the atrocities. Let's not talk about what was bad. Let's talk about where we are and how we can get along going forward. But you can't go forward, and I think going back to the song, I think that's one thing that was being said, is that, you want this house to be good. You want this relationship to be great. You want everything to be good, but there's something in the past. There's something in the past I can't get past because it hasn't been reconciled. So, when we talk about racism, when we talk about sexism, when we talk about homophobic viewpoints, it's how do you get past the issue with the Nazis last week? So you're gonna tell me, and I heard, and I forget the congressman who said this. He's I think he's from South Carolina somewhere, who got voted. He's voted into office in an all-white district, and he was speaking at the Republican National Convention last year, and he said, I just want to let y'all know there's no racism in America. And people, and all the people in the convention or wherever they were, they just shouted, yeah. They just went crazy, because here is a black person saying there's no racism in America. So if this black person said there's racism, mind you, that's the love that's being portrayed. But if you go back into the past, you keep bringing something from the past into the present. So when I see the Nazis marching down past Central High, down Daisy Bates, down Martin Luther King, you're telling me that the past is still here. So how can we get along in the present when you keep bringing the past back into this relationship? Let me stop right there, because I just been rolling. See, that's what happens when you're not on the air. you just all of a sudden, it's kind of like what they when I was a young minister, and I can never forget. I started out in the Baptist church. So when you first get ordained in the Baptist church, you're going to be the youth pastor. Period. Pretty much you're going to be the youth pastor. So you only you can only preach on the fifth Sunday, because the fifth Sunday was, how many fifth Sundays you have in a year? I think maybe 3, maybe 4, 5 at the most. So you don't get that opportunity. And so when you get up there, you've been studying, you've been researching, you've been at it, and you got all this in you. And all of a sudden, the minute the the choir finish and sit down, and you get to that microphone, it's like all of it just whoosh, and and you just go. And I used to, this pastor was told me, he said, listen, you got 15 minutes. Mind you, he gets as long as he wants to. He can get that 2 hours, but you got 15 minutes. And I used to almost hyperventilate trying to get everything out in 15 minutes. Because he would reach behind you and tug. Like, okay, it's this Sunday, you Sunday, everybody trying to get out of here. And so that's what happened today. I'm just pouring out. So, Denise?
Let me first of all get these messages on these from Takia. Takia's in the house. Hey,
Woo-hoo!
she in the house. Dawn is in the house. She says, say that when you were talking a few minutes ago. And then she says, peace to everybody. That's coming from Dawn. Dawn Jeffrey. And she's over the Little Rock Freedom Fund. We talked about the event happening from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Sue Cowan Williams Library. Dawn is in charge of that with her team. So we hope to see you there. I want to say a couple of things going back to what you said about the past and how it's always something in the past that keeps us from having effective conversations in the present moment, the conversations that we need to have. And it's interesting to me because it's not everything from the past that makes people upset. I was going to bring up the neo-Nazis. Now, the neo-Nazis that came, they are rooted in the past. The whole reason that they were here was to show you how they feel about how it used to be back in the day. And they're reminding you of what it used to be like back in the day when Black people in particular were considered property and had no control over our own bodies. And so it's not that past that they don't worry, but they're not concerned about that past at all. But when Black people want to talk about reparations, when Black people want to talk about the institution of enslavement, when Black people want to talk about the continuation of redlining and all of the things that we have to deal with, that we continue to deal with. Now it's like, oh no, don't bring up the past. So we don't want to talk about that past. Oh, anytime you talk about that past, that makes people mad and that makes people upset, and we can't deal with it. But so it's you pick and choose what you want from the past to keep talking about. It happens. It's the same thing about 9/11. Everybody wants us to honor 9/11 because of what happened in 9/11. Okay, yes, that happened, but you don't want us to talk about what happened in enslavement. So you pick and choose what you want to bring forth, what you want to carry forth, because you benefit from that conversation. And so that's something that I want to make sure that we think about. So we can talk about the past and we can get through it as long as you appreciate it. And when we talk about being reconciled, I said this at one of the events we had during the book festival. The word reconcile, the R-E, that prefix means again. And so when you say reconcile, that means I want us conciliatory. I want us to be together like we were before. And so that's what we're saying when we say reconcile. But when we're talking about race relations, especially with Black folks, we have never been in right relationship with each other. So there is no reconciliation not happen until you admit the truth. You have to admit the fault that you have done. You have to admit your faults, and you have to be ready to repent. I don't care about no forgiveness. Don't say, I'm not looking for forgiveness. I'm looking for repentance. Repentance says, I know that I was wrong, and I'm going to work so that I never do that wrong again. I'm not going to just say I'm sorry, because anybody can say I'm sorry, but what's going to happen as a result of your sorriness? And so we have to think about that too. We got to first be in right relationship. So when we talk about the past and we want to know why we can't get along when we bring up the past, it's because we want to tell the truth about it. Because this president that we have, his whole campaign was rooted in the past of what you don't want to deal with, making America great again. When was America great? When Black people were under the control of white folks, as we still are, just in a different iteration. So we
and like I said, so many things connect. And I thought about something, and I want to ask you this question, Denise, because I was thinking about this morning. Having a conversation with I was talking to my cousin this morning, and we were having this, and we were just talking about how we grew up and different things. And I said, you know what? I said, there are certain words that people look at and they automatically bring it into a negative thing, a bad thing. Until you really look at it, to me, there's always two sides to everything. So the word cult, when you hear the word cult, people will think it's a bad thing. They think about Jim Jones. They think about white supremacy and all that. They say it's a cult. It's a cult. But in reality, I think, in my mind, I may be wrong. I'm not an English major. I don't break down words a lot of times. But to me, I think cult is short for culture. I think cult and culture go together because the culture of something is when you can get indoctrinated. And I may be using it in the wrong, the wrong way. But when it comes to family, when it comes to all these other different things, you're basically brainwashed. Most families basically brainwash you. They indoctrinate you. Say, this is the family structure. This is what we do. It's going back. Don't do as I do as I say. And so there are certain things that we get indoctrinated to in our life that we hold on to, and it's hard to get away from because that's what we're trained. And you think about it, you spend 18 years being trained, and I use the number 18 because basically we turn 18 now. You graduate high school. Most people graduate. The average person graduate high school. They go on and they move out or they start their whole life. So for 18 years, you are being basically indoctrinated into this family, this ideas, all these different things. And now, once you leave, now you have to start to navigate and start to think on your own. But it's difficult because you have all these years that are still there. I spent 6 years in the military, and there's still things that are still in me from the military that's still there. And so you have to have a concerted effort to break away, but sometimes it's difficult to break away. So sometimes when we look at what this idea of a cult, there are some things that if you look at it, we as people are a part of this cult. And one of the biggest cults to me that's going on right now is this thing called Christmas. Starting from Black Friday, it went from Black Friday to Brown Thursday, but it's this thing, and you hear it on the radio. You hear people talking about, what type of Christmas shopper are you? Oh, I got to get these gifts. You're being bombarded with, you got to sell here. You got to sell. I mean, anytime I pick up my phone, it's just everywhere. Even I'm in France. I'm on a train leaving the airport in Paris, going to Cergy. They got Black Friday sales. I mean, just all over the airport. Black Friday, 7%. I'm like, what the? So that lets me know that this indoctrination, because Black Friday was something that was created here. But now it has moved around the world. And people are into it. So sometimes you have to stop and think that this indoctrination that we're in, that is so difficult for us to break away from. And I have to be, the one thing, if I haven't learned anything from the Reverend Dr. Denise, is one word I cannot stand. Well, I can deal with it now because I have to own it. But in the beginning, I could not stand it. That doggone complicit. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that.
But why didn't you want to hear it?
Because it's the truth.
Okay.
It's the truth. We have to stop and say, when you talk about there's something from the past, well, sometimes you are complicit with that something in the past. And what happens is you get upset about it when it hurts your feelings, when it bothers you or whatever. But as long as you don't feel a certain way about it, you rock on with it. Yeah. And so then when it's put in front of you, then you start to feel a certain type of way. So this
The light is flashing.
Caller, you're there.
Yes, peace and love to all. Brother Phil being here.
Peace and love.
Now, it's good to see that you are waking up, like you say, with her, telling you about us being complicit and all that. Now, a lot of times I be thinking even the radio station is complicit with the CIA and all that. Look, they got 100 deals that they show now because of the Freedom of Information Act. It's sad to say that we have to wait 50, 60 years to find out some of the secret atrocities that our government is involved in, knowing they have bases all around the world, and in some places they drop even bombs on people, even like in the Gaza Strip. If you look at TV, how they have really just destroyed percent of the buildings. Now, our deal is to develop a counter-racist code. A counter-racist code is where we don't need an individual leader. Now, you might have to pull my coattail because I feel like because it's very rare that I might get to talk even. But in this counter-racist code, we have studied what goes on, but at the same time, it's up to us to be constructive. Now, out of this code, because
I'm listening.
Saying something. Were you trying to say something?
No, well, the only thing I want to say, you started out by saying that that radio is complicit. Did you say that?
Yes, I did.
How's
radio
complicit with this?
This CIA and the rest of the alphabet that control our community.
The media.
The media. Yes.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Now, remember, they control economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, it's up to us when we're warned upon to come up with ideas for counter war. And this counter war comes in the form of a counter-racist code. When we know that all the media is bombarding us to act out of our culture or act out of our nature, we got to pass it on and pass it down. Like Brother Wayne's black on black love and respect, that is one of our first steps to what I call the badge, because we know they have treated us with benign neglect. In other words, all of our issues in benign neglect, they said, let's just avoid them. Now, number 100 on that list, or in this list of atrocities, even from starting with the Tuskegee deal, and it's sad to say, I'm going to say it real quick, that every time we get a whistleblower or white people that have a conscience, they even try to knock them off, and do knock them off. Gary Webb, that talked about the cocaine that the CIA flooded into our communities. But I was going to say the last thing on that list is their apology for slavery. Now, that is a benign neglect situation too. That's one issue that they know that they should have given us reparations long time ago. Now, our Congress people that are under this meritorious manumission, meaning that they have us look at them as sellouts, but at the same time, none of our progressive intellectuals are really have the, I might say the balls to step up and say, this is where we are. But that's why I say if we had a counter-racist code, we don't have to look trying to be constructive, trying to have love for one another. We have some at the top. If they came, if they just put a few people in the big mansions that would take care of a lot of the homelessness. It don't make no sense for somebody to have 25 cars, 35 rooms to live in, when you look around and people are under leaves trying to stay warm and stuff. But anyway, like I say, our biggest deal is not to mention our new political party. I know if you've been to other countries, you know they just don't have two parties sometimes. And our party will be people of color for more. And I'm sure, like I say, there's white people, there's people of color, and there's the racists. And how can so few, that's the biggest thing, how can so few, and their population is really dwindling because of we say there are buffers, the mulattoes that's in between. I'm going to through my own coattail because I know somebody else want to call in. But the biggest thing I wanted to discuss is a counter-racist code, and that's all that is being constructive and productive. Let's stop beating each other up and work together, what they call, anyway, I'm putting my own coattail.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get this coming in. Let's acknowledge that Keith Harper's on the line. Hey, Keith.
What's up, Keith?
He said, y'all better talk. And Takia wants to say this about you, Tony. Said, Pastor Orr is onto something with cult and culture. Both words come from the Latin language meaning to care or show deep reverence for. Cult just gained a negative connotation. Let me read that again. Pastor Orr is onto something with cult and culture. Both words come from the Latin language meaning to care or show deep reverence for. Cult just gained a negative connotation over time. Let's break that down a little more though. So when you talk about cults, the definition of cult, you're talking about a group of people who believe in something, a group of people who have a shared idea around a person or an entity or whatever. So for example, anybody who is a member of any kind of organized religion, you are a member of a cult because you share the values around whoever this leader is, whether it's God, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Buddha, Jehovah, whoever that is, all of you all are a member of a cult because that's what you have gathered together around this, you center whoever that is. Now, there is also a such thing called an occult, O-C-C-U-L-T. C-U-L-T, people who are part of a religion, you're in a cult. O-C-C-U-L-T, and a cult is different because it's a group of people who are gathered together centered around a certain person. Yes, but there are some things in an occult that they want to keep hidden. They don't want the world to know. So that's why when you talk about Jim Jones, that was an occult because the way he was moving amongst those people, he didn't want them to know. When you look at the documentaries on TV, part of the occult, you got sex abuse happening, you got molestation happening. You have all of these things, and they tell the members, you can't tell anybody. They don't want the government to know that you are there. They don't want the government to be aware of anything that's happening. So the occult keeps certain things hidden in order for them to move because they know that those hidden things are really against any law, against any religious law, any local law or whatever. So there's a difference between a cult and an occult. And then when you talk about culture, then it's a broad, whoever it is deciding to share and agree around customs and traditions and ideas. That's a broader, it includes more people because you don't have to be a part of a religious organization to be a member of a culture, to be a part of a culture that does have people who are members of an organization. So culture is more broad. So just want to make sure. So when Takia says cult just gained a negative connotation over time, I really think that's because she's talking about an occult because it is negative because it harms people. But a cult does not have to be harmful at all. So religion doesn't have to be harmful, but occults are absolutely harmful.
Yeah, okay, I can go along with that. And that's why I think in the family setting, because everything starts in most things start with the family. With a group of people who consider themselves family or who look at themselves as a family. And and that can even be, it can either be a cult or a cult, because there's a lot of things that go on in families that don't tell nobody. There's a lot of things that go on in the family where you said, okay, we're in this together, we're working together, and basically, it's like, but you're gonna do things my way. And I think in this country, it's being predominantly looked at as the father or the male figure, or as the authoritative person that, okay, you're gonna follow this person.
Let me get this in from Takia. Takia says, thank you for going deeper. That's exactly how cult became negative over time, because people used cult and occult interchangeably. That's exactly what's happening. What happens in this house stays in my house. That's what she says.
Yeah.
You've heard that. So Takia is talking about what you said. What happens in my house stays in this house. And then when you talk about it being patriarchal, let's go back to Solar Beam's comment when he said we need a counter racist code, or I think he said counter culture, whatever the counter code is. But the problem is the Black Lives Matter movement was just that. It was a movement that says we are not going to centralize the leadership around one person. We are all going to lead this movement together. So there were quote unquote chapters. So the Black Lives Matter was happening globally. People were responding to it because we did not have to wait for one person to give us the agenda and all of those things. But with the Black people in particular around Black Lives Matter, what happened? When people found out that it was women who started it, then they don't want a part. Black people didn't want a part of it because of the patriarchy and the sexism that Black people are complicit in. And then when they found out that the people who were the leaders were not only not men, but they were also queer, LGBTQ, they definitely didn't want to have anything to do with it, because they don't want to deal with all of that. We don't want to align ourselves with that. So if we're going to have any kind of movement that pushes us all forward, you got to get past all of your own isms. And if you can't do that, then we can't even get to the point where we can have a conversation about what it means to be together. And that's what my brother was asking on Tuesday. He said, when you have people who believe lies, when you have people who live untruths, when you have people who are motivated by the false narratives that this country puts out, how can you have a conversation with them about liberation? How can you do it?
And so some of the acts made a statement that so few control so many. I don't think people, and like I said, because I'm in all these different conversations with different people around the world who basically are dealing with the same things. And having these conversations, the one thing I've learned, I will admit, I was one of these people about 5-6 years ago that I stood with my cult, whether it was religion, whether it was family, that's where I stood at. And I did not move until I started to actually, I think it started about maybe 10 years ago, but it actually started to really manifest over the past 5-6 years. Because I had an idea and I felt, what I was indoctrinated in, that's my truth and that's what I'm standing on. Until I started really, really opening my mind to not only different cities, different people, different places, different things, talking to people around the world and realizing there is a dot connection, that you can connect the dots. But I also, while I was in France, spent so much time asking this question when I was talking to Christopher from Hong Kong, Sadi from India, when I was talking to this guy named Shane from the Marish Islands, and talking to people from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Swaziland, Kenya, and talking to them, I asked them, tell me about the history. Give me your history. Give me your history of where you live. And when they would go back, they'll start talking about, this tribe, this tribe wants to be empowered. This tribe wants to be empowered. And I started looking at some things that, like I said, all around the world, there are some things that are going on. At the top, you know, what you say is capitalism, what you say is racism, or whatever you want to call it. At the top, there are so few people, but the power they wield in all aspects. It is the one thing that this person told me, and this guy's name is Bill from Kenya. He said it's at the top. It's not about. It's a multinational power structure at the top. Whether it's Modi in India, whether it's the king in Swaziland, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind that, like I said, it's the same thing that's going on here.
Yeah, but here's what I feel like we have to put on the table. So I was in Rome. Same thing happened. I went on a food tour talking to this man. He's brown. What I would call brown. If he were in this country, I would call him brown. But in Rome, he was the darker of all of the other colors. And so in Rome, he was being treated like Black people are being treated over here. So all around the world, you have a group of people who are of a darker hue, who are always the target of whoever it is that's in power. And so whoever you are the more melanin you have, the more of a target you are. And so when we say, well, how come so few can control so many? It's because those of us who are the targets, we still divide ourselves based on color, based on class, based on educational levels, all of these things. If we could get to and I said this before, if we could get to the point where we go back, Sankofa, go back to the past and pull something that we can use in the future, if we could go back as Blackness, and I'm talking about all around the world, those of us with more melanin, your Blackness, if we were recognized, if we could bind ourselves together on that, we could absolutely overturn the power structure. But we too busy inside of our culture, our Black culture, we too busy looking at each other with the side eye. That's why they can control us, because we too busy fighting each other over foolishness. Now they fighting each other, they fighting for money, they fighting for power. We fighting for foolishness because we want to live in this neighborhood. I want to drive this car. I want to go to these. That's what's wrong.
Yeah, and you're right. The problem becomes, is going back to what we talked about earlier with complicity. When it is brought to your attention, the truth is standing you in the face. A lot of people, because of the indoctrination, because of the brainwash, because of other things, they'll look at that truth and say that may be true, but this. Call you on the air.
Good morning, you all.
Oh, where you been?
I'm just part of the program. I was laying around here. One of the main things that our people, my people, don't understand. In the ruling part of the government of the United States, they have three main issues that they deal with us on. Number one, they never want you to know who you really is. That's a target there to keep you from knowing. The next thing is to keep you divided. And the next thing is to keep you in poverty. Our people just can't seem to get what's going on. And they are working it to perfection. But there's something I want to hit on a little bit deeper. In the Quran, it speaks again. In the Christian religion, they would call them demons, evil spirits. When you look up the jinns are, some jinns can be good, some jinns can be bad.
But gens can manifest themselves in the flesh too. And this is who really ruling and running the stuff behind the scenes. We dealing with power that got giving these people all kinds of knowledge, and they keeping them in power, and they keeping everybody else in power. It's a control mechanism that's much powerful than just regular people here doing these things. But we can't see that. And that's all I have to say. I love y'all, and y'all keep doing the good work.
I missed you. I'm so glad you were here. You called in. But okay, yes. So we can't see ourselves. We don't know ourselves because many of us, if we go back to talking about the cult becomes more important to you than anything else. So when whoever steps to me, they want to have a conversation with me, they want to get to know me. One of the questions that I always ask is, because I ask about religion. Well, they usually bring religion up because I ain't bringing religion up, but they usually bring it up. And I'll say, are you a Black man who happens to be a Christian? Or are you a Christian who happens to be a Black man? That the answer to that question is going to determine whether or not you can keep talking to me. I'm being honest with you. The answer to that question. And most of the time, well, so far, every time I've asked that question, the man says, I'm a Christian first. Okay, more important than your identity. Your cult is more important than your liberation. Your cult is more important. Your cult is everything to you. And that's how the indoctrination works, because it gets you to focus on whatever that shared idea is that the cult is their shared personality, whatever that. You so focused on making that person happy. You're so focused on making sure that person is not mad at you that you lose yourself in it. And so when the caller says we got to get to know ourselves, the only way some of us are going to know that is to divest from your cult. Yes, I'm talking about your Jesus, your Jehovah, whoever it is. If you are that first, then you can't get to know yourself.
Yeah, and so that's what I was talking about earlier, because with family, I meet so many people who refuse to break away from their family. They refuse to recognize that what you may have been taught. And I was having a conversation with my children the other day, and it was refreshing to me in some of the things I was telling them. Because, like I said, at some points, you are having conversations with other people, but then you recognize that the conversation you have with other people is a conversation you have to have with yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I was telling them, they said, you have to know, just because this is your brother, this is your sister, this is your cousin, you have to stop and look at that person for who that person is. You just can't say, because this is my brother, then whatever my brother do, I'm going with it, period. So no, if it's something that you feel this, I can't get with that. But because we are taught, I remember growing up, it was like, hey, regardless, you stand with your family. Regardless, I don't care what it is. And because of that, a situation arose where because that's family, I can't go against family. But in the end, my freedom was taken away because I can't go against family. Instead of saying, you know what? And that's one of the things in this conversation, that's one of the things that is difficult.
Well, and I do just want to say this too, because I know that's out there. I know that's out there. In my household, I'm just talking about my household. My daddy and mama believed in family too, but this is what they would say. This was from my daddy, it came through my mama. Said, listen, if you go out there and you do something wrong, let's just say you steal something. If you steal something, don't even call home, because we're not going to do anything to help you. Not if you know you ain't got no reason to do that. Now, if you are caught up in something that you are not responsible for, we will move heaven and earth. We will fight tooth and nail. We'll put up our house. We'll do everything for you, but only if you on the side of right. So yes, there are those dynamics, but there's a way to have that dynamic where we hold true to family, but we also hold people accountable. And I think that's the part that's missing in the majority of the society. We don't hold people accountable. I don't care who you are, you need to be held accountable.
Right. So, hey, our time is out this morning. I enjoyed the conversation this morning, and especially with everything that's going on. I love.
Takia said, "Yep, this is the same way in her family. Don't do wrong. You're gonna be held accountable."
I love the movie Sister Act because Whoopi Goldberg says something that to me resonates now, and it should be a foundation in it, in people's lives. It's not so much about if you want to be somebody and you want to go somewhere. That's all subjective. But the second part of it, when she says you better wake up
And pay attention.
Regardless of the first part, the second part is most important because you, in this world, in this country, in this society that we live in, that's why they made woke a dirty word. Because they don't want you to pay attention. They don't want you to wake up. Because as long as you continue to flow in how this society or this country flows, then you are in the cult of the country. Yes. So, any last words there?
No, we got time.
Okay. I thank everybody for commenting. I thank everybody for calling in. That's why when there's a real heart attack on the public radio stations, public broadcasting, public television, because these are places where people can actually speak freely, can actually speak the truth, and it can actually speak on things. And we know nobody wants to hear. Some people don't want to hear that. So enjoy the rest of your day. I think it's going to be I know it's going to be a beautiful day. And so thank you for tuning in. See you on Tuesday for Community Voices, next Thursday for the workplace.
The health corner.
Huh?
I think next Thursday is a health corner.
Is the health corner?
I think so.
Okay. I'll see you for. Hey, take care. Love you guys. Bye.